All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores and big news. I feel like I say that a lot of videos, but man, this is one of the bigger of the big news. Daron Payne's franchise tag would cost the Commanders $18.9 million, fully guaranteed. So now we got to take a look at whether it's not worth signing him long term. Should we go ahead and get that contract out the way? Of course, we got to look at the rest of the defensive tackle market because that's huge, man. If we want to pay him long term, we better be one of the first to sign our defensive tackles long term because the price is just going to go up and up and up and up. We can't play the same games we played with Terry McLaurin with Daron Payne. We need to be one of the people that puts pen to paper the first day of free agency type of stuff, the first day of the tampering period, honestly. So we're going to take a look at the defensive tackle market and all of the defensive tackles that will be up for new contracts because they're either 2023 free agents or they're in the last year of their deal and they'll be free agents going into 2024. And a lot of those guys may get paid this free agency. And again, if we allow some of these other defensive tackles to get paid before Daron Payne, the price is just only going to skyrocket. So we need to take a look at whether or not it's worth paying them long term because that's going to be largely based on when we pay them long term. Are you going to do it early free agency? Are you going to do it late free agency? Are you going to franchise tag them this season and then wait to pay them long term until next free agency? Is it better just franchise tag them and let him play out his contract and maybe he leaves? Or do you franchise tag him and trade him this offseason? There's so many possibilities in this. We're going to dive into everything. And then, of course, we also have to talk about the Commanders cap space situation and why I feel like it's actually quite possible for us to pay Daron Payne long term, but we'll see how this goes. Of course, with new ownership on the way by reportedly March at the latest, it's going to be really interesting to see the Commanders make any major moves until a new owner is in place. So that's going to affect a lot of things. Not only just signing Daron Payne long term or any other player currently on our team long term, but head coaching. I mean, is Rivera even going to be here long term? New offensive coordinator, all of that type of stuff. We may have to wait to get any significant changes for this organization or any significant hires or signings until after the new owner is already here. But before we dive in all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Sunday for the Commanders live call-in show where I open up the phone lines and y'all call in. You ask whatever questions you may have or you voice whatever opinions you may have. We talked about Daron Payne versus Montez Sweat, who we prefer to pay, last week on the show, and people called in and gave their opinions on that and even gave their opinions in the chat as well. We talked about franchise quarterback, our preferred offensive coordinators. We talk about all of that type of stuff during the live stream. So if you want your voice to be heard, make sure you call into the show every Sunday and let us know how you feel about everything. It can even be outside of the Commanders, how you feel about the rest of the NFL, who are your Super Bowl picks. If you want to talk NBA, whatever you want to talk about, make sure you call in every Sunday and talk about it. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, the NFL has officially informed teams of the 2023 franchise tag numbers today. So quarterback, if you franchise tag him, he's going to be worth $32.4 million worth of guaranteed money this one season alone. Running backs is $10 million. Wide receivers is $19.7 million. Tight ends is $11.3 million. Offensive linemen, no matter tackle, guard, center, whatever, are $18.2 million. Linebacker is $20.9 million. Cornerback is $18.1 million. Safety is $14.4 million. Kicker / punter is $5.4 million. Defensive end is $19.7 million. And then defensive tackle, which is what Daron Payne is $18.9 million. Guaranteed, fully guaranteed, eating up all of that cap space. But at the same time, that's less than what his potential market value could be. Like I've already done a video on Spotrac, you know, does all of their research. They look at historical context. They look at stats compared to other players as far as production level and things like that. And with their formula, their historical references and everything that they put into their equations, whatever, they have Daron Payne according to age, according to potential average salary, according putting again statistical comparisons, who they feel like he's as good as or around, they compare him to Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Leonard Williams, and Arik Armstead, and they came out to where they feel like his market value was worth $19.4 million per season for his next contract. They feel like his next contract, they're estimating, could end up being 5 years, $97 million, with an average salary again of somewhere north of $19.4 million per year, which would make him the 4th highest paid defensive tackle in the entire NFL, the 53rd highest paid player in the entire NFL, regardless of position. Now, that's really interesting because I, on one end, feel like that's pretty low for what I expect him to actually get. I'm thinking he's going to get something at the very least $20 million. I'm thinking he'll get maybe $21, $22 million per year, probably around. And then, of course, we can debate left and right why he deserves to get that or why we shouldn't give him that, all of that type of stuff. We may dive into that a little bit later, but I'm more so here to present y'all facts and options and things like that. We can debate in the comment section and things like that. I definitely want to bring Daron Payne back, just to go ahead and get my opinion out the way, not to dive too deep into it. I really do want to bring him back, and I feel like we can just use the majority of that money that we're going to get from releasing Carson Wentz to do that. And of course, there's an argument as to whether Daron Payne is more replaceable compared to Montez Sweat. Who would you rather to pay, and all of that type of stuff. But again, today we're focusing on the numbers and the different options that we have. And again, $19.4 million is lower than what I expected. And if he's willing to do that, you sign him today. I mean, the first day of legal tampering, that deal's supposed to get done, if that's all he's asking for, honestly. And at the same time, that's a little bit more expensive than the franchise tag. So if you want to save a couple of $1 million, which I don't necessarily think is worth it, because ultimately you'll end up paying him more money down the line. We've seen how franchise tags go. The price just goes up and up and up and up. And whatever he'd be willing to take this offseason, even if it's a little bit more than you'd want to pay him, it's only going to go up by the next offseason and the offseason after that, and so on and so forth. So the cheapest you're going to get him is this offseason, this 2023 offseason. And again, even though franchise tagging him is cheaper, franchise tagging him is going to cost you almost $19 million, 18.9 on the low end. What Spotrac expects him to get is $19.4 million. And even though I feel like that's very low compared to what I think he'll actually get, that's still more than the franchise tag. So I can see why the Commanders may want to franchise tag him. But again, like I said in the intro, a lot of this depends on when you pay him. Are we signing this guy the first day of legal tampering before we start getting notifications left and right of other guys getting paid? Because Fletcher Cox will be a 2023 free agent. Javon Hargrave is a 2023 free agent. So is Dalvin Tomlinson. So is Sheldon Rankins, Taven Bryan, Chris Wormley. I mean, Ndamukong Suh technically. Linval Joseph. So we got to compare him to all of these guys. David Onyemata. You got to compare him to the 2023 guys, but also don't sleep on the 2024 guys as well, because some teams may go ahead and get out in front of it. And even though these guys have one more year left on their contract going into this 2023 season, they may want to go ahead and get this out the way. I mean, you have big names like Chris Jones, who you just saw dominate for the Chiefs against the Bengals. DJ Reader, Grover Stewart, Quinnen Williams, Ed Oliver, the one from the Bills, Dexter Lawrence, Jeffrey Simmons, Zach Seiler from the Dolphins, Derrick Brown, Quentin Jefferson. This could get ugly, man. This could get really ugly if we wait too long to pay Daron Payne. So to me, I feel like you either pay him immediately. We're one of the first to jump on it. Don't wait for all of these other guys to get signed. Or we're going to end up playing an ugly game of chicken again with the franchise tag, because I doubt they just let him walk. I think at the very least they'll probably try to tag and trade him, and then who knows what value you could potentially get for that. Maybe a first rounder. I doubt it though, because if you tag them and trade them, the other team is not only gonna have to give us picks to get them, but then they're gonna have to figure out how to pay them long term. So we're definitely not getting a first for him. Maybe a third rounder, maybe. And you already know the best time to try to trade a guy like that is around the draft. That's probably the second best, and then around the trade deadline, late October. That's the best time. That's the most value you can get for a guy like Daron Payne if you want to go that route of franchise tagging and then trade him to a team that's desperate, that feels like they have a Super Bowl window and all they need is basically a Daron Payne, and they feel like their team is complete and they're ready to go on a Super Bowl run. That is when a guy like Daron Payne, a veteran, his trade value is at the highest, because during the offseason, who knows? I mean, some teams are confident, but they're not absolutely sure that, I mean, you never know, injuries, anything can happen. So you're not really sure about your true Super Bowl window and your chances of being a real Super Bowl contender until we really start to get around late October. And that's when Daron Payne's trade value could end up skyrocketing. But again, for me, I prefer to sign him long term, but I can see why a lot of y'all would prefer not to. There is a certain price to where I'm like, all right, Daron Payne, you're tripping. I think as much as I want to keep him, if we start getting to like 25 a mil plus, that's when it starts to be like, all right, Daron Payne, I really want to keep you, but 25 mil a year plus is a little like, all right, man, chill out. But again, man, we got to worry about Chris Jones, Quinnen Williams, DJ Reader, Jeffrey Simmons for the Titans, Dexter Lawrence, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Dalvin Tomlinson. There's a lot of guys that's potentially going to get paid this free agency period, this offseason, 2023, and you got to be in the front of it with Daron Payne. Because after Chris Jones gets paid, even though Daron Payne may not exactly be as good as Chris Jones, his agent is going to be like, well, he led your team in sacks. He made it to the Pro Bowl. He got a few All-Pro votes. And even though he may not be exactly as good as Chris Jones, the contracts only go up and up and up. After Chris Jones gets paid, doesn't matter who's the next defensive tackle in line. If they're anywhere even near his hemisphere like Daron Payne arguably is, Daron Payne, if he ends up getting signed after Chris Jones, is going to get more money than Chris Jones per year. That's just how it works. The market just gets reset. Or even if he doesn't get paid more than Chris Jones, I'm pretty sure Chris Jones is going to reset the market at a pretty nice price. And Daron Payne, even if he gets somewhere near it, even if it's a little bit less, it's still going to be probably more than the Commanders are willing to give him. So you got to jump out on this immediately. We need to be talking to Daron Payne every day like Kirby Smart talks to high school kids trying to recruit him. We need to be buttering him up every day and go ahead and get that contract verbal agreement done right now. I mean, if y'all need me to call him, I will. Put Rico on the case if that's what it takes, man. Of course, they also released the transition tags as well if we wanted to experiment with that, but that's really rare. But just to let you know, I'm not going to run down all of the position groups, but defensive tackle, if we were to put a transition tag on Daron Payne, it would be $16 million. But there has been a rumor that Payne has been somewhat distanced this past season. I mean, moving his locker away from players, not hanging out with the other defensive linemen, even Jonathan Allen off the field and things like that. Like, he's just been separate. And I mean, I don't really believe that rumor until I see concrete evidence that that's a real thing. I'm not going to believe it, but you never know, man. Maybe he already went into the season. I mean, the way he got double-digit sacks this season, 11.5, in any other season, he hasn't even been relatively close to that. You could tell he was a man on a mission this final season. And then I also worry, and then even beyond that, speaking of the fact that he got 11.5 sacks this season and was never even close to scratching that in previous seasons, I'm worried about whether or not, if he gets his big money, if he's going to fall off. Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin have shown that you can get big money and, if anything, only get better. I mean, Jonathan Allen got paid and then had his best season of his career. I'm hoping Daron Payne continues to move upward in trajectory after he gets his money, but who knows? I mean, with the dramatic difference in his stats and his play on the field from any other season compared to this past season with him being on a contract year, I am worried about us giving him the big money and then him not being as motivated as he was this past season and then not being anywhere near as good. I mean, granted, 11.5 sacks in a season for a defensive tackle is really hard to do. I mean, Jonathan Allen was one of the primary Pro Bowl guys, like before Aaron Donald even decided he wasn't going, and that's how Daron Payne got in. Daron Payne was an alternate. Jonathan Allen was the guy. He didn't even have 11.5 sacks this season. I think Daron Payne was third out of interior defensive linemen with 11.5 sacks out of the entire NFL this past season. That's not easy to do. So I don't necessarily expect him to exactly repeat that. But as long as he's going out there and balling out like he did this past season, I'm okay with it. But I'm worried about him not even being able to do that. But again, 11.5 sacks, again, is fairly unrealistic to expect out of him exactly. But if he can be somewhere around like 8 plus, 9 plus probably, I'm happy with that. And that's another thing with the franchise tag. If you franchise tag him, put him on another prove it deal type of season. If he regresses, again, it's almost impossible to expect him to get that 11.5 sacks again. But if he doesn't ball out the way that he did and doesn't at the very least get like 7-8 sacks, then it changes everything. And then maybe his price goes down and you're able to pay him long term for a cheaper price in the 2024 offseason than his 2023 one. So really, you can try to test him. Franchise tag him, see what he does this upcoming season and make him prove it again. But at the same time, that may send a bad message to not only Daron Payne, but the other players. Go out there, lead the team in sacks as an interior defensive lineman, and then we franchise tag you and make you prove it again. That may not go over well with the rest of the players. I mean, granted, we did pay Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin long term, term. But the way that Daron Payne played last season, I don't think that would get over well for the rest of the players and even potential free agents outside of the team looking at how we handle our players. So this Daron Payne thing is really tricky because there's also an argument to be had as far as Montez Sweat goes that it's easier to replace a Montez Sweat than it is a Daron Payne, but that's completely up to you. I mean, we could debate that back and forth till the end of time. Y'all know I love Montez Sweat. I'm from Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, so I want him to stay on the team no matter what. So I don't even want to dive into that debate right now because I feel like I would have to sit down and dedicate a straight 48 hours of film watching Daron Payne and Montez Sweat to truly come up with a real answer, definitive answer right now. But I'm just hoping, me being the glass half full guy that I am, that we can end up keeping both of them long term some way, somehow. And at the end of the day, I mean, we are kind of lucky because right now we have a 5th round quarterback on a rookie deal going into his 2nd season. So we have the ability to pay a Daron Payne and maybe a Montez Sweat and a Cameron Curl and a Cole Holcomb and maybe even bring in outside free agents as well, especially on the offensive line. So with us being in a situation where we have a quarterback on a rookie deal who could potentially be a franchise quarterback, it's not like we're just BSing around and Sam Howell is just some bum. He could potentially be good enough to lead us to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl. I'm not getting ahead of myself because I'm not even the biggest Sam Howell fan like a lot of y'all are. I'm still kind of like, I gotta wait and see it for him to prove it, but it's not like the talent isn't there. It's not like we're going back out there with Taylor Heineke on a cheap deal. We're going out there with Sam Howell who has some potential to him. I mean, really just look at the Eagles. A lot of people didn't believe in Jalen Hurts, and I was honestly higher on Sam Howell coming out of the draft than Jalen Hurts. And again, I'm not even one of the biggest Sam Howell fans, and look at what Jalen Hurts has done. The Eagles went all in on building around him. You have a quarterback on a rookie deal, so that allows you to put money and assets and capital into other positions. I mean, you saw how they built the defensive line. They built the entire defense, cornerbacks, traded for AJ Brown, all of that type of stuff. You're able to do those type of things when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, a franchise quarterback. Now, we definitely have a quarterback on a rookie deal. We still got to wait and see if he's a franchise quarterback, but even if he isn't, if he's bad enough, maybe we get our new quarterback on a rookie deal in this 2024 draft. Caleb Williams, Drake Mays, Quinn Ewers, either one of them. So right now, our window is fairly open as far as if we want to sign guys like Daron Payne long term. We can afford it. And then maybe if Sam Howell goes out there and looks really good early on in the offseason, maybe you can get Daron Payne to buy into the fact like, hey man, I know you want a little bit more money, but stay here with your brothers and we could potentially be a Super Bowl contending team with Sam Howell at quarterback. Maybe you'd be willing to give us somewhat of a hometown discount because of those factors. Who knows, man? This thing is really tricky. And the main thing about all of this is that nobody has the right answer. Right now, we could debate back and forth about Daron Payne versus Montez Sweat. Franchise tag him, pay him long term, all of that. But nobody has the absolute right answer right now. So everything is hypothetical, but I'm just trying to provide y'all with all of the statistics and data and opinions from both sides and all of the options that we have. And that's basically it right there. So yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And as always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything, like I already said. I mean, because that's really important to me. Y'all don't understand how much it means to me when y'all like the videos. Free for y'all, but means a lot to me. And of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. And of course, man, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this entire Daron Payne situation. Do you want to franchise tag him and then end up paying him long term later? Do you want to franchise tag him and trade him? Do you want to franchise tag him and then just let him walk in the 2024 off season? Do you want to just go ahead and pay him long term this off season? Let me know all of the options that you have and which ones you prefer. And without further ado, catch y'all later. I'm out.